Hey all, I think it's right for me to make an updated guide on this broken unit, and so here we are in this video with Summer Anise. This unit has made a debut summer last year and has been dominant in the scene the entire time since her release. Regardless if you're a beginner player or a veteran, you can be sure to get your mileage worth by pulling this character. In almost every single raid since she has come out, she has seen a lot of use and is also one of the easier unit to build in team comp wise for raiding. On top of that, she has dominated the PvP scene as well and shaping up the landscape of PvP teams. I'll give a quick rundown on her main points so you can effectively use her. First, her skill 1 makes her an insane electric unit buffer, giving attack and reload speed in her kit but only affecting electric units. Majority of the electric DPS units have scaling attack on their own kit, so her attack buff could be a bit diluted. However, this is a decent amount of attack buff nonetheless, on top of having reload speed. Since a lot of electric units damage as well come from their own attack, this makes her buff really good, so it's generally advised to have her running with another electric DPS. Next, a good portion of her damage comes from her skill 2, which triggers whenever she uses up her last bullet. There's a few factors from this to take away. 1. You must not get max ammo overload light on her. In fact, when trying to roll her overload for the first time, you should make sure to have at least 5 to 10 rocks or custom modules spare, since you are locked and not given a choice whether to keep the rolls or not when rolling your overload for the first time. It's pretty important to have some spare custom modules so you can roll yourself out of max ammo. 2. This means that for team building, avoiding units that give ammo is generally recommended. So units like Litter or Noir give extra ammo during bursts, which makes her not as efficient to be in their teams. Tove does also give extra ammo, but Tove's extremely high shotgun attack buff somewhat evens it out. Still not as generally recommended, but it's an option if she is used as a buffer for maid privity. 3. This point isn't as widely flexibly as there's really only one good unit out right now for this, but units that would reduce max ammo would then be good for her and for any future last bullet team comps. Right now, there's only main use with regular privity as only she can do it for the team, but this is something to note in the future in case we get more last bullet units that reduce max ammo capacity. This skill 2 targets the 2 highest attack enemies, which is what makes her a menace in PvP as it can take out high priority DPS units. On top of that, due to how bad shotgun's accuracy is for far away units, the skill 2 makes up for it because it's a targeted skill and thus ends up not being as affected negatively by the enemy distance like other shotgun units. This is what makes her fairly usable in PvE situations like for bossing and even for campaign. And finally, getting her burst to level 9 allows her to have 1 ammo when she bursts without external help like from privity, so making her burst a priority to level 9 is a pretty high priority. So, should you pull on her? Absolutely yes. This is a must-have character, and this character is equivalent to a pilgrim status in terms of relevancy. Even if somehow she gets outscaled in terms of usage and performance, it's going to take a while before so, and there has to be a significant shift in meta. For raids, due to her excellent buffs, she has a good relevancy for electric advantage. There may be time in the future where we're going to replace her for elements that she's neutral against as everyone starts building elemental specific teams. However, I can still see some use on her, especially for new players who are just building up their roster. For PvP, she's one of the top units right now, and even if say there's a future better PvP unit, that shouldn't distract her relevancy immediately, and I feel like there will be a much more broken unit that appear in order for her to be irrelevant. There's always that possibility of releasing a counter though, as Shift Up should be aware how strong she is in PvP, but nonetheless, she does help form up a team that can be used in a multi-team SP arena setup. The question of dupe does come in. Actually, this unit is one of the few rare units that I would actually say dupes are worthwhile. I normally don't say that to many units as a general advice. Getting dupes does help provide some more buffs to electric units. On top of that, her DPS is not bad on her own, and also that she's relevant in PvP. Since having more CP in the opponent actually benefits you in PvP, units that are meta in PvP are also good to have duplicates. Since also she's a limited unit, we're not going to get spooked pulling her in future banners, so it doesn't feel as bad to get some duplicates now while her banner is still available. For her skill build, I would build her 779 to start off with and into 10-10-9 for majority of the people. Then if you do have some spare resources, finishing her to 10-10-10 would be good. For her overloads, An even priority of both attack, elemental is actually good on her. She's used in a lot of content, so attack is good, and relevant electric DPS, so elemental is good. Elemental is also a way bigger CP weight bonus, so that also adds up. You also have to make sure that she has no ammo lines in her overload. Then finally, additional bonus lines for her are hit rate, and crit damage. I wouldn't specifically aim for them as the third line, but as long as you have attack and elemental and zero ammo line, that's her best slot. For cube, she pretty much just uses resilience. No other cube is really relevant for her. For dolls, she is one of the higher recommended dolls amongst the different units. Dolls will give more base attack, which will give her more buffs, and also being a relevant DPS and unit in general for both PvE and PvP, having an upgraded doll is actually a good investment in her. And finally, for teams, for PvE, starting off with the basic teams and then further expanding on them, I would start with the Dorothy and Privity combo for her most straightforward team. In a team with Biscuit in there, Biscuit acts as a buffer whenever Summer Anise bursts, all the while also providing support and cover rebuild. We then fill in with just any burst 2 unit that fits typically the element of the raid. This does rely Summer Anise and Dorothy as the primary DPS, so typically the damage ceiling on this team is relatively low, but it does provide a decent neutral coverage that's very simple to build. Typically, Elegg has both electric and support typing synergy and also buffing Dorothy, but as mentioned, that slot can be fit with almost anything else that the raid needs, typically slot filling in for the element needed for the raid. The other basic team is generally aimed towards people who have invested regular Scarlet or Ein. This is a classic last bullet electric infinite ammo team with Marciana acting as a burst 2 healer. There's other substitutes there, but pretty much any defensive unit on the burst 2 category. Next comes up is the first place electric team right now. This team requires extra treasure at least phase 2 for best use, with Extra providing attack buff, damage taken increase debuff, Crown providing attack buff, attack damage increase, and reload speed, and Summer Anise providing attack buff and reload speed, and then just sprinkled with cooldown reduction unit. You get a crazy broken synergy of electric infinite ammo team that has so much synergy on each other's buffs. With Ein also just taking in the top DPS ranking chart right now for electric, she will take in the main DPS slot. The other 2 teams also here is utilizing extra treasure, and assuming we're using Crown elsewhere, we can use either infinite ammo synergy with Summer Anise and Privity, or utilizing Biscuit as a healer and buffer at the same time. The following after that is for teams that don't have extra treasure and would end up using either the Killer Wife or Volume as the burst 1 unit, and then having as a flex buffer or DPS at the last slot. Naga works as a core damage buffer and electric DPS that benefits off the synergy, and also a healer for Crown that constantly triggers Crown's skill 2 buff. But that last slot is also just pretty much a flex to pretty much any unit. The other team build is the Naga, and primary important thing here is as long as you're not using litter that hinders Summer Anise for burst 1 cooldown reduction, it generally should be okay. There's also the shotgun team, but her more here is a buffer to maid Privity. It's usually generally not as great as she doesn't have as much synergy to Tove, but nonetheless it's an option out there. And lastly, for raiding, it's the typical solo raid leftover teams. You generally slot in an element that the raid needs, so this team does vary greatly. And with how prevalent she is in PvP, I'll give a few example teams I did see her often that I thought was effective. Do note that these are just some examples, and with how some arena brackets shape up to be, these teams may not be the most effective against your opponents if they have a build-up counter for your team. Coming up first with the example of the Rookie Arena team, this team uses up a lot of resources with Jackal and Noah, but it's a pretty strong tanky team. Generally not advised for SP Arena, but in Rookie Arena, it has a general use coverage. The other following ones, though, are more balanced setup. Coming up with the electric comp with Moron and Biscuit synergizing as the tank combo. Biscuit also helps buff and lifesteal for Summer Anise, which allows Summer Anise to be somewhat of a tank as well, even if she's targeted. Next combination is Noah and Biscuit, where Noah does help tank for the team and Biscuit provides some invulnerability so Noah doesn't immediately die. Anise then uses that opportunity to kill the enemy while she's being protected. And then the other combo I have seen is using the Noise and Rapunzel combination. It may seem like we have limited B2 options with Noah and Biscuit, but these are more about the burst 2s that are just synergistic with Summer Anise. If you have neither, you pretty much just have to put substitutes like Bay or work around other burst 2 clip shotguns or rocket launcher units like Viper, Anise, Senti, and others that you could end up utilizing. The same goes to burst 1 where you just find filler units if you cannot find anything else. But yeah, that's all I have to say for Summer Anise, a limited unit that's on the level that I would say like a Pilgrim release. Overall, a highly recommended unit. The way I see it, a unit has to severely power creep Summer Anise if they want to make her completely irrelevant. For PvP, I could see something that would cripple electric DPS similar to how Sakura is if they want to make Summer Anise bad, but that also affects regular Scarlet anyways too, so the meta could end up shifting on PvP with just that kind of new release, which is still crazy to think about, but if Shifted needs more money, hey, I can't blame them. In any case, I still think her being relatively relevant on electric raids for a while unless we get more broken units. But I think it's pointless to think about the future we know nothing about. But anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on her? Did you pull multiple copies of her? Are you still holding even now? I know there's a collab upcoming, but still, this unit has been not available for almost a year, and pretty much like almost any people that didn't get her kind of regretted her back then. You would hate for that to happen now. And even if, say, there are better units that come out after her, I don't see why she would be completely useless even after all of that. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. As usual, we do hang out more at my stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/KaiGLV. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, whatever that thing is. That's it for now for me, and I'll see you guys next time.